Something strange is happening inside Dodge Correctional Facility. Chris Watts, the man who ended his entire family, has reportedly been getting visits from people on black. Staff say they're not on the official visitor list, yet security lets them in. Some inmates whisper they're ghost gang. Others think they're part of a private group that's been funding him to stay quiet. But now, a new prison administration has taken over, and they're shutting it all down. No more secret visits, no more closed-door meetings. So who were these people? And what did they want from Chris Watts that the world was never supposed to know? Many people ask why the Chris Watts story remains in the news, and I always tell them his actions deeply hurt his family and touched the hearts of parents everywhere, leaving sadness that we all feel. As humans, we want to understand the pain and loss caused by this tragedy. To keep exploring this case with care and find answers about Chris Watts' life today, please subscribe to this channel. Your support helps me dig and share more details respectfully. I need you to understand something. Prison has rules you don't see on the outside. There's a hierarchy in there. At the very top, the respected ones, the bank robbers, the drug dealers, even some of the violent offenders. But at the very bottom, lower than anyone else, those are the people who hurt children. And Chris Watts, he lives there every single day. You remember the case, don't you? August 2018, a family disappeared in Colorado. A father stood in front of cameras, begging for their return. He seemed broken, scared, desperate, but it was all a lie. Chris Watts knew exactly where his family was, because he's the one who put them there. His pregnant wife, his 2 little girls, gone. The world watched as the truth came out. The trial happened. The cameras eventually left. Everyone moved on. But here's what no one tells you. What happened after the cameras stopped rolling? Who comes visit him in prison? Why are they making his life so miserable? By the end of this video, you'll understand something. Even the most hardened criminals want him gone. And he knows it. Let's talk about Chris Watts' prison life, the part of the story nobody shares. December 2018. Just months after his conviction, Chris Watts was moved, not to another prison in Colorado, but over 1,000 miles away, to Wisconsin. Why? That's the question everyone should be asking. Larry Levine used to work as a prison consultant. He knows how the system works. And he said something interesting about Watts. He was probably getting threats, death threats. In Colorado, people knew who he was. The guards knew. The inmates knew. And according to Levine, even the corrections officers probably wanted him gone. Think about that for a second. The people whose job it is to protect him, even they couldn't stand him. So they moved him, far away from Colorado, far from the news cameras, to a place called Dodge Correctional Institution. Now you might think Wisconsin sounds random, but this prison, it has a history, a dark one. Dodge Correctional wasn't always a prison. Before that, it was a psychiatric hospital. For the criminally insane. You know who was locked up there? Ed Gein, the serial killer who inspired movies like Psycho and Silence of the Lambs. Stephen Avery. You might know him from Making a Murderer on Netflix. This place holds monsters, and now Chris Watts is one of them. But here's what I want you to think about. Why move him so far? What was really happening in Colorado? Was he attacked? Threatened? Did something happen that we don't know about? Authorities won't say much, but the fact that they moved him at all tells you something. He wasn't safe, and maybe they couldn't keep him safe. So they sent him to Wisconsin, to a maximum security prison in the middle of nowhere, where no one knows him, or at least that's what they hoped. As an investigative reporter and a parent myself, this was one of the hardest and touching pieces of case I've ever had to research. Please subscribe. It encourages me to keep bringing you more details about this case. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine waking up in a tiny cell. Concrete walls, a metal bed, a toilet in the corner. You're alone. And you'll stay alone for the next 23 hours. That's Chris Watts' life. Every single day. A source close to the prison said this about him. His quality of life is very low. He's locked down 23 hours a day, left alone with his thoughts, 24/7, every day. Birthdays, holidays, weekends. It doesn't matter. The same four walls. Another source said he has nothing to do but think. He thinks about what he did. Every day. He's tormented by his past, by his mistakes. Now you might be thinking, good, he deserves it. And maybe you're right. But here's the thing about prison. It's not just about being locked up, it's about who you're locked up with. Eddie Neves used to be an inmate. He served time. He knows how things work inside. And he said this about Chris Watts. A lot of guys would like to get their hands on him. He killed 2 little girls who didn't do nothing to deserve it. He's the lowest of the low. If the guards weren't always around, everyone would take a swing at him. Let that sink in. Even criminals have a code, and people who hurt children, they're at the bottom. Another expert said Watts will become a target of opportunity, meaning what? Meaning if someone gets the chance, they'll take it. And Watts knows this. He lives in constant fear. He keeps to himself. He doesn't talk to people. He stays in his cell whenever possible. Because out there, in the yard, in the cafeteria, that's where danger lives. People who commit crimes against children are the most hated people on the inside. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. Inmates have families too. Some have kids. And when they see someone like Chris Watts, they don't see a person. They see someone who deserves punishment. Every single day. So Watts walks around knowing this, knowing that at any moment someone could attack him, knowing that the guards might not get there in time, knowing that even if they do, it might happen again tomorrow. That's his reality. And it's never going to change. You'd think someone in Watts' position would keep his head down, follow the rules, stay quiet. But that's not what happened. Chris Watts was cited for unauthorized communication and unauthorized transfer of property. What does that mean? He was breaking prison rules, talking to people he wasn't supposed to, giving things to people he wasn't supposed to. He lost phone privileges for 15 days and canteen privileges for 30 days. No snacks, no treats, no calls home. But it didn't stop there. He got in trouble again, this time for possessing contraband and disobeying orders. He lost electronics for 10 days. Now here's where it gets really weird. In July, officers found something unusual. In another inmate's cell, a guy named Dylan Tallman. They found Chris Watts' stuff, his underwear, his books, his toiletries, even petroleum jelly. Why would another inmate have Watts' personal items? When they asked him, Watts admitted everything. He'd given Tallman his books, his hygiene products, his toothbrush, his shampoo, his soap, his coffee, even his personal underwear, fruit of the loom boxes. But it gets stranger. Watts was making phone calls to Tallman's family members. He contacted Tallman's mother multiple times. He even had his own parents contact Tallman's mother and girlfriend. Now why would he do that? Think about it. Chris Watts is isolated, completely alone. Nobody wants to talk to him. Nobody wants to be near him. How do you wake up every morning knowing what you did? How do you look at yourself in the mirror? How do you keep breathing when the weight of your actions is so enormous? You tell yourself a different story. You focus on other factors. You spread the responsibility around until it feels manageable, and that's what his letters show. A man desperately trying to make sense of his own choices, trying to find a version of events where he's not pure evil, where there's some explanation, some reason, some outside force that contributed. Inmates who've known him say he brings this up in conversations too. Not constantly, not in a way that's obvious, but little comments here and there. If things had been different, if certain people hadn't done certain things, if I'd seen the truth sooner. Always with that little word, if. Like his actions depended on other people's actions. Like he was just reacting to what others did instead of making his own choices. One former inmate who was in Bible study with him said he once tried to discuss this, asked him directly about personal responsibility, about owning your choices completely. According to this person, Chris got quiet, really quiet, then said something like, I own what I did, but you have to understand the whole picture. The whole picture. That phrase shows up in his letters too, like he's trying to get people to see something they're missing. Some context that would make everything make sense. But what context could possibly exist What picture could possibly make his actions understandable? That's what makes people so angry. The feeling that he's minimizing, that he's not taking full responsibility, that even after 7 years in prison, he still doesn't fully get it. Or maybe he does get it. Maybe he understands completely. And maybe that's why he has to create this alternative narrative. Because understanding the full weight of what he did would be unbearable. Some people say we should have compassion for that struggle. That living with what he did is its own kind of punishment. That beating himself up mentally every day for the rest of his life serves no purpose. Others say he doesn't deserve that compassion. That he should feel every ounce of pain and guilt. That if he's not fully accepting responsibility, then he hasn't really changed at all. What do you think? Is it possible to genuinely regret something while still trying to explain it away? Or does real remorse mean accepting everything without excuses? So here we are, 2025, 7 years into his life sentences, and the question everyone wants answered is simple. Has prison changed Chris Watts? The official record says he's a model inmate, follows rules, does his job, participates in programs, stays out of trouble. By prison standards, he's doing everything right. But does that mean he's changed as a person? That's so much harder to answer. He still mops floors for 12 cents an hour, still spends 23 hours a day in his cell, still writes letters to people on the outside, still attends Bible study twice a week, still quotes scripture and talks about being forgiven. His daily routine hasn't changed much since he arrived. Same small cell, same boring meals, same isolation, same endless hours with nothing but his thoughts. But something has shifted in recent months. More people have been writing to him. Ever since some documentaries brought the case back into public attention, his mailbox has been fuller than ever. Some letters are supportive, some are hateful, some are just curious, and he responds to many of them, still trying to connect with the outside world, still trying to be understood. One thing that hasn't changed? He has no visitors. Nobody comes to see him. No family members making the trip to Wisconsin. No friends sitting across from him in the visiting room. Just him and the letters and the phone calls to people who still take them. That isolation, it's complete, total, absolute, and it will never end. He'll spend the next 40 years, maybe 50 if he lives that long, in that same routine, same cell, same prison, same life, until the day he dies. And when that day comes, probably nobody will notice except a small mention in the news. One more inmate died in prison. One more person who spent decades behind bars paying for what they did. So, has he changed? Ask 10 people and you'll get 10 different answers. Some will say yes. That 7 years of reflection and faith and isolation have transformed him. That the man he is now is different from the man who committed those terrible acts. Others will say no. That real change is impossible for someone who did what he did. That claiming to be different doesn't make it true. That he's just learned how to survive prison, nothing more. And maybe the truth is somewhere in between. Maybe he has changed in some ways, but not others. Maybe parts of him feel genuine remorse while other parts still don't fully understand the impact of his choices. What we know for certain is this. Every morning he wakes up in that cell. Every night he goes to sleep, knowing he'll never leave. Every day is the same as the one before and the one that will come after. That's his reality. That's his life. That's what justice looks like for him. Whether it's enough, whether it's too much, whether it serves any purpose beyond punishment, those are questions we all have to answer for ourselves. Thank you for watching this deep look into Chris Watts' current life behind bars. If this video made you think, if it showed you something you didn't know before, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share this with someone who's interested in true crime, and subscribe to this channel for more detailed investigations into cases that shook the world. Drop a comment below, tell me what you think. Has prison changed him? Does it matter if it has? Should we care about what happens to people after they're locked away forever? I want to hear your thoughts. And remember, this isn't about glorifying what happened. It's about understanding the full story, the before, the during, and the after, because that's the only way we learn. That's the only way we make sense of things that seem senseless. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and never forget the real victims in cases like these. the innocent ones who can't tell their own stories anymore. I'll see you in the next video.